Hello to all you beautiful people of the internet. Welcome to another cat profile, and this time we are looking at Pamela Milton. She is female, her hair is blonde. In issue 176, she is mid to late 40s, and in the finale issue 193, she is late 60 to early 70s. Before the apocalypse, she was a politician, and then after the apocalypse, she was the former governor of the Commonwealth and the former commander-in-chief of the Commonwealth Army. So before the apocalypse, not much is known except that she was a politician and she may have lived in Ohio. I do believe she lived in Ohio with her husband, son, and daughter. After the apocalypse, during the course of it, Pamela lost both her husband and daughter and would travel with her son Sebastian to a community that would soon become known as the Commonwealth. Eventually, Pamela would be elected as the leader sometime after her arrival. One of her initial acts was to enlist Mercer, a high-ranked officer in the Commonwealth Army, as her son's bodyguard. One day, Pamela gets word that one of the Commonwealth's radio operators, Stephanie, has made contact with an individual named Eugene, who is part of a community known as Alexandria. While she has Stephanie punished for doing so without authorization, Pamela nevertheless has a group of soldiers meet up with the visitors. She has the Commonwealth's bookkeeper Lance go with the soldiers and bring them to the Commonwealth. In the volume The New World Order, Michonne Hawthorne arrives in the Commonwealth along with others from Alexandria, accompanied by Lance Hornsby, in order to meet with their leader Pamela Milton. Lance leads them inside to where the person in charge resides. They are greeted by a man named Maxwell Hawkins, who formally greets them. He asks who is the one that established contact with them, and Eugene responds. Maxwell proceeds to ask him, Juanita and Michonne, what they did before the apocalypse to get a read on them. When hearing Michonne was a lawyer, Maxwell takes her through 2 doors and introduces her to Pamela Milton, the governor of the Commonwealth. Pamela says the Commonwealth is rebuilding the world back as a beacon of hope and mentions the community has over 50,000 residents, with more being brought in daily. Seeing Michonne's sullen look, Pamela asks why they should include Michonne and the others with her as part of the Commonwealth. Michonne states that they weren't looking to be auditioned to join. Pamela insists that civilization is a machine and that they have to pull all the pieces back together at long last. She says she views Michonne as an engine, but Michonne snaps back. When Pamela inquires what's wrong, Michonne tells her about her daughter Elodie, who is still alive and looking for her. Pamela mentions that she is a mother as well and understands what she is going through, and then takes Michonne to the bakery on 6th Street. Matt expresses surprise with the visit, and before Pamela can ask about Elodie, she comes out with a cake for the delivery. Michonne and Elodie lock eyes, and both are stunned by the other. Both mother and daughter run and embrace each other for the first time in years. Rest in peace to my boy Cake. It looked delicious. Pamela mentions to the other Alexandrians that Michonne is with her daughter and that it will understandably take some time for her to come back. Suddenly, Sebastian comes and complains to Pamela about Mercer's actions, revealing to the others that he is her son. Mercer soon appears and corroborates Sebastian's claims. Pamela sternly reprimands Mercer and says that they will discuss the matter later, dismissing him to get changed. Michonne has reunited with the others. She explains how her daughter has been living in the Commonwealth for years, that she finds it safe and she likes it. Michonne concludes by stating that she trusts her daughter and believes that if the Commonwealth trusts her and her group, then she can trust them. Pamela finds the ordeal excellent, as it means that they can now skip to the part where they are getting to know each other and can actually start being friends. Eugene then asks if this means that he can finally be able to talk to Stephanie. Pamela tells Lance to send for Stephanie and tells the group that they are currently gathering the weapons that the Commonwealth previously took for them to return to them. Pamela also voices a desire to see Alexandria for herself. She asks Eugene whether he and his group will be ready for a return trip soon, hoping for the group to enjoy the Commonwealth's hospitality first. Eugene nervously agrees on staying for a couple of days to organise the trip. Outside the community, the Commonwealth soldiers are returning the weapons back to the group alongside Elodie. Elodie is surprised that Michonne carries a sword with her. Michonne proudly admits her skill with it, though Elodie finds the katana weird. Just then, Stephanie joins the group and apologizes to Eugene for not having been there at the meeting with them. She expresses her regret at having talked on the radio with Eugene, though he reassures her that if she hadn't done it, they wouldn't be talking face to face. Pamela interrupts them, explaining how the Commonwealth has a very specific protocol regarding the integration of new groups, which they take very seriously. Stephanie concurs with the governor, stating that she was acting out of line, and that although everything worked out in the end, could have just as well ended in disaster. I mean, I get her point. Although they are allowed to use radios, they are supposed to alert the authorities in case they ever stumble upon something new. Pamela then asks Stephanie to take the group to their settlement at Whitmore, where rooms will be prepared for their stay. She also comments on how she arranged for Michonne to share a room with Elodie, a sentiment to which the former agrees with. Pamela then takes her leave, going back to work to arrange everything for the trip and asking the group to enjoy their stay at the Commonwealth. As Pamela prepares to depart, Sebastian is close behind her. She tells her son to listen to Lance while she's gone and not to cause any trouble. Sebastian expresses his disapproval of her being treated like a child to be looked after, and Pamela doubles down with a more serious warning, to which Sebastian finally complies. Pamela tells Sebastian that she knows things have been hard since his father passed, but assures him that he is destined for greatness as long as he applies himself. Pamela has her son give her a kiss goodbye, telling him that at least he's doing that right. Mercer assists her into her wagon. I'm not going to say anything. Over the course of the trip, Pamela sleeps in a tent meant exclusively for her. Yumiko expresses disapproval over this, as there is room for them all to fit in it, but Magna silences her. On a different night, Pamela has dinner in a tent with Mercer, asking what information he is able to glean from the visitors. He tells her that Eugene will be useful to them, and as he is very intelligent. He definitely is. The next day, Eugene notes that he might be able to make it before sundown, which prompts Pamela to speed up the caravan. As the group gets to a point where Alexandria is in view, Pamela sees the community and is repulsed, calling it a hole. Eugene tells Pamela Milton to wait at the carriage so that he can announce her arrival. Pamela compliments the formality and encourages him to tell Rick that the platoon that accompanied him is a few hours behind, though could arrive sooner. She also compliments Eugene's attempt to rush ahead in the hopes that they wouldn't notice, for which a bemused Eugene thanks her. Pamela waves Eugene goodbye. Rick arrives outside to meet Governor Milton. Pamela is somewhat appalled by his appearance. They make their introductions, and Rick is somewhat wary of her styling herself as governor before being interrupted by Princess, who is overjoyed to finally meet Rick, much to his confusion. The governor, because Brian Blake and such. He tells Pamela that some of her soldiers were rather colourful, but Pamela says that she was told Princess belonged to Rick's group. Princess clarifies that she met the group along the way while they were passing through Pittsburgh. Rick welcomes the new addition before politely asking Princess to leave him and Pamela to talk, which she does. Resuming their conversation, Rick tells Pamela that he is looking forward to getting to know her. Sorry about that. As he had been told a lot of impressive things about her community. Pamela corrects him, stating that the Commonwealth isn't hers, and she didn't found the community, but was merely appointed to administer it there after she arrived. Rick acknowledges he did the same and offers to trade war stories. Pamela responds that she doesn't actually have any, and Rick, frowning, states that he wishes he could say the same. He goes on to ask Pamela about the platoon of soldiers that accompanied her, which she states are for her protection. Sorry, I'm pausing a lot, guys. I'm trying to read as much as I can. Rick asks if she could send one of her men out to meet them, and states that he'd prefer if she kept them at a small lookout station about a mile away for the duration of their talks. Pamela is worried about the safety of the man she'd send out, but Rick assures her that the area around Alexandria is safe. Looking behind him, an unamused Pamela says that she may need all of her soldiers after all. Confused, Rick turns around only to find Dwight standing behind him with the militia. Dwight warns Pamela that she is mistaken if she thinks they are helpless or vulnerable. Pamela asserts that she is not impressed by the militia, while Rick furiously tells Dwight to stand down. Rick apologizes to Pamela for Dwight's behavior, explaining that he's the leader of their militia and is just making sure they're safe. Rick proposes that Dwight's troops accompany one of Pamela's men at the lookout station so they could meet her platoon. Pamela agrees to send Mercer. With the issue solved, Rick offers Pamela a grand tour, which she gladly accepts. Maxwell attempts to accompany him, but Pamela says she'll be fine and walks away with Rick, while Maxwell glares at them unamused. Pamela cautiously asks Rick how he lost his hand, to which he recounts his story with the governor. Pamela expresses her condolences, acknowledging that makes her title rather awkward, and encourages Rick to just call her by her first name only. Rick says it's no trouble, and he didn't tell her the story to make her uncomfortable, but to point out the kind of people his group had to deal with thus far. This was partially so she'd understand Dwight's actions, and partially so she'd know what she's up against. Somewhat impressed, Pamela states that things just got intense, but Rick reassures her that they don't have to be, as they'll get to know each other. After taking a tour of the mill, Pamela compliments the taste of bread. Rick elaborates that Eugene designed the mill and also fixed the radio that allowed them to contact the Commonwealth. Pamela compliments Eugene's resourcefulness and states she's excited to learn what he could do with the resources of the Commonwealth at his disposal. Rick is surprised and somewhat unimpressed that such a large community needs Eugene, as he'd expect they'd have at least 5 like him. Pamela reassures him that while they do have their free thinkers, people like Eugene are only in high demand, which Rick agrees with. After sampling Alexandria's apples, not Andrea's, she's dead in that time. Sorry, spoiler alert. Pamela asks Rick about his house. When Rick points it out, Pamela is shocked that he lives with everyone else and has the same house as everyone else. Rick tells her that he is the leader, his benefits and chores are the same as the rest of the communities, proclaiming that they are all equal in Alexandria. Pamela questions his philosophy, stressing that people need to look up to Rick and aspire to his level, or the whole thing falls apart. Rick retorts that people look up to him because of what he's done and what he continues to do, not because of what he did or has. Pamela asks him about his status before the apocalypse, wondering why he doesn't want it restored. Rick points out that he used to be a small-town cop, and that his house was actually smaller than the one he currently has. He goes on to state that whatever status they had before died with that life, and that they have to earn their place in this new world. While assuring Pamela that he doesn't want to offend her, he questions the system under which the Commonwealth operates. Pamela describes this system as fair, though Rick disagrees. Pamela adamantly tells him that the people need something to aspire to and work towards, and that mobility is important. While it may not be possible for everyone, it still keeps things running. She goes on to say that the working class forms the foundation of the Commonwealth, and that you can't build anything without a strong foundation. Rick questions why anything should be built upon the foundation at all, as in his opinion, it ruins it by burdening it with supporting others. Pamela replies that the world that this is the world order and always has been, to which Rick retorts that perhaps it's time for a new world order, much to Pamela's dismay. In the volume The Rotten Core, Rick, Pamela and their entourage reach the outskirts of Oceanside. Pamela is awestruck by the sight of the ocean, which she says she hasn't seen since before the apocalypse. Maxwell corrects her, pointing out that it's more of an inlet, though she is quick to praise the sight nonetheless when Pamela glares at him. Much to Mercer's amusement, I chuckled at that bit. Rick takes Pamela with him to introduce her to Pete. Further along the way, they come across a herd of undead. As the herd is eliminated, Dwight congratulates the soldiers. Rick asks if Dwight had his soldiers follow him, and Dwight confirms and asks if Rick isn't glad that he had. Rick angrily tells him that if he hadn't pulled Annie and Vincent from lookout duty, they might have avoided the herd altogether, leaving Dwight to contemplate his decisions. Pamela congratulates Mercer, saying that he did the Commonwealth proud. Furious at her seeming lack of care for him and his men, Mercer asks for an apology. Pamela begrudgingly apologizes for causing him any alarm, but says that she knew what he was capable of, and as that now Rick's group knows as well. As she walks away, Mercer glares at her angrily. After some time, they reach the sanctuary. Pamela is somewhat intimidated by the sanctuary's appearance, but Rick points out that it used to be much worse, and hopes that times have changed. John appears at the gate and bluntly asks who Pamela is. Rick introduces her as the leader of the Commonwealth. John apologizes for seeming inhospitable, and invites them inside. After Governor Milton describes the Commonwealth, John is impressed, although he cautiously asks why she came to the sanctuary. Pamela replies that the coalition of settlements that the sanctuary is included in is the largest one that they have encountered thus far, expresses interest in trading goods and sharing resources with the ultimate goal of rebuilding the country, pointing out that it would benefit both sides, impressing John even further. He offers them rooms to stay for as long as they want. Rick commends John's leadership, saying that he really turned things around. John replies that he's all about making friends now. Afterwards, Rick asks Pamela's opinion on the sanctuary. While she is impressed with the community, she is less optimistic when it comes to their leadership, and as that she sees why they need to be supervised by Rick. She asks what John did before the apocalypse, but Rick doesn't know. Pamela supposes that it doesn't matter, and switching the topic, asks about Negan. Rick is hesitant, claiming it's a long story, but proceeds to tell it nonetheless when Pamela prompts him. After making their introduction, William welcomes Pamela to the kingdom, adding that the name made more sense when there was a tiger around. Pamela inquires and Rick recounts Ezekiel and Shiva and muffly asks they are no longer with them. Pamela notes that the communities are very colourful and asks how many more there are, to which Rick complies that there is only one left, the hilltop. As they approach the hilltop, Rick is dumbfounded at the speed at which the community was rebuilt, as is Dwight. At the meeting, Pamela is sceptical about Pamela's good intentions, asking if the proposed alliance would entail trading knowledge and resources, or a picture of Pamela hanging in every room and pledging allegiance to the woman who smiles too much. I picked that up as well. Pamela claims that it's the former, and slightly embarrassed says she didn't know it was possible for a person to smile too much. Maggie claims that it is, especially when one is trying to earn the trust of new people, and as everything they say seems like it could be a lie. Rick gently reprimands Maggie for being rude, irritating her even further. Jesus asks if the conditions in the Commonwealth about the conditions in the Commonwealth, and Rick begins to tell them about Michonne staying in the Commonwealth, but is interrupted by a shocked Maggie who asks if Michonne is being kept prisoner. Pamela denies this and explains that Michonne has reunited with her daughter who had been happily living there for years and chose to stay with her, as the entire room stares at her in disbelief. Maggie agrees with Rick's plan to visit the Commonwealth and agrees to the alliance if Rick approves of what he sees there. In the morning, Pamela invites Rick to ride with her in her carriage, and Rick gladly accepts. She asks what happened to his son's eye, and Rick tells her that Carl was shot. Pamela claims that though they've had their fair share of conflict, they've never had children in the front lines. Rick Grimmer tells her that the luxury had always escaped them. Pamela says that she hopes those days are behind them. She goes on to praise the communities, deeming them good Commonwealth material, though adding the distance would be an issue. All that is needed now, she claims, is for the Commonwealth to bring Rick's group to their way of thinking. Rick counters that his group could bring the Commonwealth to their way of thinking as well. Pamela jokingly hypothesizes that Rick will be trouble, and Rick replies that hopefully he won't be too much. Arriving at the Commonwealth, Pamela is horrified to see the chaos in her community. After the riot ended, Pamela tells the residents that they will restore order here and return everything to normal, and tells everyone to go home. Pamela reprimands Lance for letting things fall apart while he was in charge, and is about to demote him when she spots Rick outside helping with the cleanup, much to her dismay. Pamela confronts him, but Rick tells her he figured helping out is the least he could do. This prompts Pamela to help with the cleanup herself to save face, much to Mercer's satisfaction. Sebastian spots his mother doing the menial work and questions her actions. Pamela informs him that she is helping and offers her son the chance to do the same, but he angrily rejects her offer. Pamela continues reprimanding Lance and orders him to double the patrols, to remind the people they are the ones protecting them, but more importantly to prevent them from rebelling again. Maxwell arrives and informs her that Rick has come to see her. As Lance leaves them alone, Pamela asks Rick about what happened at the restaurant. Rick says that he isn't surprised that he is being watched, but Pamela assures him that she heard of the incident through gossip. Rick explains how he lost his wife recently, and that he knows how much she would have loved the Commonwealth. I mean Andrea. Pamela says she understands and reveals that she had a daughter who also died before they arrived to the Commonwealth. After some time, Pamela and her entourage are on the hunt, accompanied by Rick, Michonne, and Dwight. They spot a group of roamers, so Pamela asks for a shotgun. She shoots one roamer in the shoulder and instructs Mercer to deal with the rest. Pamela invites everyone to head back. Michonne is concerned about Mercer, but Pamela assures her he will be fine. Dwight, Rick, and Michonne look at this with confusion. Later, Michonne, wanting to resolve everything peacefully, tells Pamela about Dwight's plans and invites her to a meeting. Dwight and Rick are invited by Michonne to her apartment. Once there, she tells them that she thinks they are making a mistake by planning to overthrow Pamela. Dwight disagrees and chastises Michonne for selling out for a nice apartment. Rick, however, agrees that they should work with Pamela to change things in the Commonwealth. Michonne is relieved to hear this, so she reveals that she has invited Pamela to the meeting as well. In that moment, Pamela bursts into the room with 2 armed guards. She said that she is glad Rick is on the same page as her, but tells Dwight he needs to go. Michonne is shocked as she just invited Pamela to talk, but the governor will hear none of it, as she can't simply allow people to plot behind her back. Dwight and Rick are shocked that Michonne will betray them to the governor, but Michonne clarifies that she invited Pamela to talk and nothing more. Dwight accuses Michonne of being with them now. He tells Rick that there is no way he can peacefully convince someone like Pamela to give up power. Pamela assures Dwight that she is willing to do whatever is necessary for the well-being of the Commonwealth. But Dwight simply doesn't believe her. Pamela orders her men to arrest Dwight, prompting the latter to pull a gun on Pamela, shocking everyone. Rick tells Dwight to put the gun down, but Dwight refuses. He believes Pamela is the same as Negan and thinks the only thing people like them respect is power. Dwight demonstrates this by threatening Pamela to instruct her guards not to move, which she does. Dwight says that they could take Pamela down right now and that everything would fall in place without her, adding that the people of the Commonwealth would be thankful. Dwight holds Pamela at gunpoint. Rick, not wanting to let civil war break out in the Commonwealth, is left with no choice and shoots Dwight in the head. Pamela thanks Rick and assures him she won't forget him saving her life before leaving. And in the volume Rest in Peace, Pamela thanks the residents for gathering for a speech. She acknowledges that tensions have been in the community have been high, and says that she wanted to inform them of the latest news before it got spun into something else. She then reveals that there was an attempt on her life, and that Rick Grimes saved her. She tells the Commonwealth that the would-be assassin Dwight was a disturbed individual who didn't understand their way of life, and that even though Dwight was a member of Rick's group, they are all still welcome in the Commonwealth. She then asks Rick to give a few words. Rick says that while he knows things have been difficult, he will do his best to find a peaceful solution to the conflicts in the Commonwealth. As Rick delivers his speech, Mercer scowls. Having learned of Mercer's arrest, she visits him in jail. Pamela confronts Mercer and expresses how disappointed she is, wondering where Mercer's sense of loyalty is. Mercer furiously questions the governor's sense of loyalty to him, as under her he was nothing more than a glorified errand boy. Mercer also points out that all the times he nearly died for Pamela, and how she never seemed to care. He asserts that Pamela isn't a leader but a wannabe queen, and that he isn't going to wait around till she's trying to install her for Brain's son as her successor. Shocked by this revelation, Pamela turns to leave, telling Mercer that he is right where he belongs. While in her office, Pamela and Maxwell hear a big explosion. Rick rushes into Pamela's office and tells her she needs to go. Pamela is resistant at first, but Rick explains that the explosion came from the prison, meaning that Mercer has been freed. He invites her to ponder how he got past her guards in the first place and tells her that they've turned against her. Sebastian arrives and tells Pamela that someone is banging on the door and trying to get in. Rick tells them that it's the conspirators and asks Maxwell to lead them to a back exit. Once outside, Sebastian grabs Rick and demands somebody explain to him what's going on. Rick tells him they're in the beginnings of a revolt, and that he is trying to save Sebastian and his mother. Sebastian doesn't believe him, since he thinks nobody is brave enough to defy them. Rick angrily grabs Sebastian by the throat and tells him that everyone hates him and his family, since they take advantage of people and treat them like... He asserts that they are the worst of the Commonwealth, but he doesn't believe they deserve to die because of it, citing this as the only reason he is helping them. He lets go of Sebastian when Pamela asks him to, and they continued with their escape. They wait for some guards to pass and go out into the streets. Rick asks Pamela if she knows a safe place to hide, to which she replies that they need to get to Greenville, where Cloris will be able to help them. They follow Maxwell and manage to escape to the woods, where Rick is reunited with Paul, Carl, and the rest of their entourage. After exchanging pleasantries, Rick instructs Jesus to escort Pamela, Sebastian, and Maxwell to Greenville. Pamela returns with her army to the Commonwealth and is not happy with what she sees. Pamela furiously asks them if they think she doesn't know what plots they have been hatching behind her back. Rick's confused as to what she means, but Pamela goes on saying that he lied to her and believes he was only helping her leave the city so he could march his army in and take over, conspiring with Mercer the entire time. Shocked, Rick denies the accusation, claiming he has only worked to keep the peace in the Commonwealth, but Pamela doesn't believe him. Rick tells her to calm down and invites her to talk, but Pamela is bewildered that he would suggest negotiations with an army behind his back. She goes on to say that the army of Greenville stands with her and that they won't stand for his deception. She then yells, "Attack!" Before both groups start fighting, Rick yells for them to stop and once again asks them to talk. Miraculously, neither group fires a shot, much to Pamela's frustration. Rick explains to her that her army is being reasonable and implores her to follow that policy once more, unless she wants to fight on her own. I do like this moment. Rick stopped the bloodshed in the Commonwealth between his people and Pamela's people. Rick gave a long speech about what he and many people had to go through, sacrifices in order to survive, and now he believes that the world has become almost the same as it is before the apocalypse, and that they no longer need to be walking dead. Rick denounces Pamela, telling her that he was wrong to support her, since he thought he could keep the peace by doing so. He had hoped that she would eventually see the error in her ways, but now sees her for what she truly is, someone who craves power so much that she would lead her own people into slaughtering each other. She then addresses the people of the Commonwealth directly, asking them if Pamela is the kind of leader they want, which they vocally deny. Rick thus implores the people to take charge of their lives and build a better Commonwealth. When Rick is finished, Mercer arrests Pamela, much to everyone's shock. Mercer tells Pamela that he has taken her into custody for her own safety. Furious, Sebastian protests that they can't arrest his mother and that they need them to keep the Commonwealth running, but Pamela tells him to be quiet unless he wants to end up in a cell next to her. Rick goes to visit Pamela in jail. She asks him if he came to gloat, but he denies this and instead apologizes, claiming that things got a little out of hand during his speech and that he didn't intend for her to be arrested, though he acknowledges that people were too worked up and that she was safer behind bars. Pamela sarcastically asks who was it that worked them up in the first place. Rick stoically tells her that she led an army to slaughter her own people and asks if she is really in a position to criticize him. Pamela acknowledges that she got carried away and explains that she genuinely believes the Commonwealth needs her to be in control in order to succeed. Despite telling her she's wrong in her beliefs, Rick believes she is genuine when it comes to them, and feels that he made his share of mistakes as well. He then releases her, much to her surprise. Rick tells her that he is in a generous mood and thought she might be more comfortable sleeping in her own bed. Pamela asks if they're going to relocate her from her home, but Rick doesn't see the need for this. Pamela points out that some residents have much nicer homes than others, and questions how they are going to determine who deserves to sleep in them. Rick admits that he doesn't know, but says that he'll figure it out in the future. Mercer then arrives and tells Pamela that a couple of guards will escort her to her home. As she leaves, Mercer asks Rick if he is sure about letting her go, but Rick is confident she poses no threat, since no one in the Commonwealth actually wants her in charge. Rick in turn asks Mercer if he thinks Pamela will be safe, but Mercer tells him that the people are so happy he doubts that anything will happen to her, but has posted guards outside her house just in case. After Sebastian kills Rick, Carl is summoned by Pamela, who informs him that his father's killer has been caught and that it's her son, Sebastian. Pamela says she wanted to hear Carl's thoughts on the matter and make sure he wouldn't take justice in his own hands. Carl stoically asks if Sebastian will be punished, prompting Pamela to burst into tears. She tells him that even though Sebastian is her son and she loves him, he will spend the rest of his life behind bars for his crime. Satisfied with the answer, Carl offers his condolences to Pamela before leaving. Michonne does the same, but warns Pamela against trying to take the reins once more as Mercer looks on. Pamela joins the rest of the community in paying tribute to Rick Grimes. In the 23-year time skip, Pamela is no longer the leader of the Commonwealth, which is now Maggie Green. She appears to be confined to a wheelchair in her age, yet she still regularly visits Sebastian in her cell every day. Whew, that was a long one. What did you think of Pamela Milton? Do you think the TV show did her justice, or do you think they should have stuck with the comic route? Me personally, I think the comic route should have been the one. Well, yes, it showed that she was an evil woman in the TV show. I would have preferred her conflicting side. If you had control over her fate, what would you do with it? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you all for listening, and have a good day.